We're live.
And we're live. There we go. What's up, Whisper Nation? Welcome into the Week 10 reaction show, the live stream show. We're going to go through the matchups from Sunday, some of the fantasy relevant players, some of the storylines that you might be interested in. As always, this is a live stream, so we encourage your questions. Just know that we're not going to be spending a bunch of time on the questions today because we're going through these games, but we'd love to answer some of your questions concerning players, the reaction to Sunday, and we'd love to hear your Monday night needs for tonight's matchup, what you need to win. As always, hit like, hit subscribe. Let us know that you're newly subbed, and we'll shout you out here. And that's Johnny Game Time Hicks over there. You can find him on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. I am Big Travie. You can find me on Twitter at Big Travie TFW. Johnny, Week 10. It's almost in the books.
Dude, I just realized as we were going live, I should have put my Suns cap on right now, dude. Phoenix Suns just pulled off a mega trade for Chris Paul. Super excited about it. I know we're not an NBA show, but I'm excited, dude.
It's kind of hard to be more amped on Chris Paul than DeAndre Hopkins for your Cardinals, who had a mega catch at the end of that game. So
the gifts just keep coming here. The gifts just keep coming, and I love it.
Phoenix on the map with the sports. But before we get into that game, that's later on. We're going to start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They visited the Carolina Panthers. Forgot who they were. This was a beatdown, really, by Tampa Bay, 46-23. They took care of Carolina here. You look at the Buccaneers side of the ball, Johnny. We said this was probably going to be a get-right game for Brady, and it was. He had 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 touchdown on the ground, 341 yards, had over 30 points in PPR formats. And we thought that maybe both the running backs could get play here, Johnny, but it was really Ronald Jones.
Yeah, crazy. He was put in the doghouse early. He fumbled, and then and then you had you had Leonard Fournette who missed a pass, and then they put Ronald Jones back in there, and he takes one to the house. And this was, I said it a couple weeks ago on the show, Travis, that this is what my fear was, is that they're both really good running backs, and I think the coaching staff likes them both and thinks that they can win with both of them, and so they'll both be on a short leash, and we could, back and forth, every single week, and that's my fear, is you're rolling the dice kind of when you're putting either one out. But Ronald Jones looked great, man.
Yeah, Ronald Jones looks good, and it seems to be Ronald Jones is going to continue to be the thumper. I don't think Leonard Fournette is going to take any of that role, really, and it's going to be Fournette worked in the passing game when he needs to be. He's going to have 5 to 10 carries probably every game, but he's just not going to be a consistent play, where I think Jones is going to be more consistent than not, just as far as the usage he's going to get, especially in a good matchup like this where Tampa Bay is going to control the game script. The wide receivers, we had debated highly, contestedly over the week on what was going to happen here. But in PPR, Johnny, each one of them got over 13 points. Antonio Brown, 7 for 8, 69 yards. Nice. You got Chris Godwin, 6 for 6, 92 yards. And then Mike Evans, 6 for 11. Led the team in targets with 11 targets, 77 yards and a touchdown. Johnny, looking at Mike Evans' production, this is his first time since week 2 with double-digit targets. Now, granted, it was against Carolina again, but does this give you a little bit more hope for Mike Evans? We've seen it now twice. Squeaky wheel works with Mike Evans, whether it's Bruce Arians talking about him or Tom Brady. When they realize Mike Evans is getting forgotten, they go back and feed him.
Yeah, I think you hit it specifically with the first part, right? I think Bruce Arians wants to use Mike Evans. He knows the powerful tool that Mike Evans is. And so I think that you're going to consistently see this. Now, it's unfortunate because I think they all kind of, eat each other as far as capping their upside. Yeah, we might have a game or two where one of them majorly pops off. But I think for the most part, they're all going to, eat off each other. And this is probably what's going to be more realistic moving forward. They've got a great schedule. It could change. I'm not saying Mike Evans scores the most out of all 3 of them each week, but I think that, you could look at double-digit fantasy points for all 3 of them remainder of the season.
Yeah, I think especially in contests where they're going to want to run up the score, I think they're going to try and continue to score as many points. One, it's Bruce Arians. Two, it's Tom Brady. And three, they need to build chemistry. Like, this is a new team all getting together. So
Yep.
I think there's actually some pieces at play here to help them out. Plus, they're going to play in better weather than most other cold weather teams. Rob Gronkowski stays hot. Johnny, 2 for 3, 51 yards and a touchdown. Nothing really to see here. We said he's made it all the way back to consistent play. You're continuing to put him in his lineup. In your lineup. On the other side of the ball, we had Teddy Bridgewater start this game. He did end up leaving with an injury here. He just wasn't anything to write home about. 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 interception. He did score a touchdown on the ground, so he got you to 20.
Yeah.
But then he got banged up, and this was just a tough matchup for him. We knew it was. We work our way down. Go for it.
Ian Rappaport is reporting Teddy Bridgewater is considered day-to-day. It's an MCL sprain. But considering, how that coaching staff has dealt with injuries, with CMC holding him out and stuff like that, definitely wouldn't be surprised if they held Teddy Bridgewater out this next upcoming game. So just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I would think so as well.
Yeah.
We're also hearing Christian McCaffrey going to be out a couple weeks now, Johnny. Is that right?
Oh, I did not hear that.
Well, you know what? I should be careful just announcing that. I saw it in a group chat with some friends. So let me just double check with CMC here.
While you're talking about that, Mike Davis, he also injured his wrist, so you got to keep an eye on that. But had 7 carries for 32 yards, 4 of 5 receptions for 12 yards. He would continue to get the workload, barring whatever, how significant that injury is. However, he did come back in the game after he injured and got carries. So I don't know if it's too significantly, too serious. And this was a difficult matchup. We had said that all week. We were just banking on his workload as putting him in that RB2 conversation. Yeah. Anything on the CMC? Did you hear about?
Yeah, so CMC, obviously we're getting some chat, some in the chat. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, CMC's likely to be out through the bye. What it's looking like here is so this is from Pro Football Talk. Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey's injury plague season isn't getting any better. He's expected to miss the Lions game, and the Panthers are prepared for him to miss multiple weeks per Adam Schefter. Not looking great for that situation. If you drafted him and you didn't get Mike Davis, you're not feeling too hot about the decision to go with CMC. I would just, what is your take on behind Mike Davis? I mean, now he's got the thumb injury. What are you feeling like going forward with this backfield? Like,
I mean, we saw.
Are we gonna trust Rodney Smith? Are we gonna go after Curtis Samuel, who was getting some work in the backfield? What are you thinking here?
Honestly, I think Curtis Samuels would be the huge beneficiary, right? Because you're getting the receiving yards, and I do expect them to use him a couple more times and rushing because it's been effective. But yeah, I wouldn't imagine they would do some kind of Rodney Smith and Mike Davis with the thumb. I know he has the thumb injury, but we'll see how bad that is and whether or not sometimes they could put like a soft cast on it and it's fine to do, to play in. So we'll see what's barring. But yeah, I'm not excited about it. Certainly that's not great news.
And of course, Rodney Smith will make the waiver article. We'll be watching a little bit more of how that went down and see if we can suggest you pick him up going on. So stick with us.
I'll go and watch some tape too as well.
In the wide receiving core, Johnny, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel. We knew this was going to be kind of a revolving door. We didn't know, but DJ Moore was the guy who we were kind of okay fading in this matchup.
Yeah.
And he ended up being the guy that did it. 4 for 7, 96 yards and a touchdown.
This was unbelievable. We said this was a difficult matchup coming in. All the past few weeks, DJ Moore's, we saw his market share significantly dip. And we're like, Curtis Samuel on the way up, all of a sudden, and of course, when you go out and you say, yeah, bench DJ Moore, not a great matchup, all the signs are pointing to bench him. Of course, he's the guy who, goes off 4 for 7 for 96 yards and a touchdown. I'm right there with you, Whisper Nation. I benched DJ Moore in several leagues, and I was very, very unfortunate in seeing him go off. I'm a little bitter. I'm sorry if you can't tell.
I think he's going to continue to be. I really think Samuel's a flash in the pan over the last couple weeks. But we're going to have to see what happens with Teddy B as well, because PJ Walker, this is an XFL guy, not a guy you're going to necessarily trust to get the ball to these guys. So that's going to be a wait and see thing too, as well as like how are they going to work with the new quarterback? I'm sorry, Philip Walker, not PJ Walker.
Yeah, PJ Walker.
That's how notable.
Yeah, right. No, PJ Walker is an interesting story, right? He went to college where the coaching staff was involved there, right? Robbie Anderson, he was the quarterback.
Well, I guess it is PJ.
Yeah.
So his name's Philip Walker, but it is PJ.
Yeah. So he was an AAF, or sorry, not AAF. What was
XFL?
XFL, right? And he showed some flash there. I think, and he came in as well when Teddy Bridgewater went out in that Thursday night game against the Saints. And I think he can. It's going to be a lot more in the slot. I think. This definitely is a downgrade. It's definitely a downgrade for sure.
We got 5 of you watching with us. We appreciate you. Make sure you get those likes up for us, and we'll continue to get out this content for you each and every day. If you haven't subbed, please go ahead and do so. We would love you to join Whisper Nation. Want to get in here and answer a couple questions here. Homemade Pants says, how much points do you think Dalvin Cook gets tonight, Johnny?
I think he gets 20.
20 points, standard or PPR?
I think PPR. I think in standard he gets like, I'm going to say 15. Bears defense is a little bit more stout.
Brett Johnson here from our League of Record popping in saying, what a week. CMC out until after bye. Mike Davis with a thumb injury. Appreciate the heads up there, BJ. And then Timothy Park says, is it time to trade Michael Thomas? So 2 things working with Michael Thomas. Lingering injuries, maybe not the full faith of the team. But then he's going to have a new quarterback because Drew Brees, Johnny, working with a collapsed lung.
Yeah.
We can get more into Michael Thomas, but what's your knee-jerk reaction on trading away or trading for Michael Thomas? Just to point out here, the next 3 games, Atlanta, Denver, Atlanta. So some really nice matchups on paper for Michael Thomas.
Yeah, honestly, if you need to win these next 3 weeks, and I can understand if you want to trade him because of uncertainty. We do know that Jameis Winston does like to, he's fine passing, and he doesn't care if you're double covered. Like he'll pass it to you. He can get it done. It's just not as efficient as Drew Brees. So if you are needing the next 3 weeks, you need to win. I don't mind trading him and getting some pieces that have some really nice matchups over the next week because he's still a big name that you can get a lot back in return. But honestly, if I'm sitting okay and I'm looking like I'm going to make the playoffs, I'm going to hold on to him because he's still a great talent. They will find ways to get him the ball. And like you said, that matchup, that schedule and those matchups coming forward are very, very nice and friendly.
Well, one game that wasn't really nice was that Cleveland Browns game against the Houston Texans, Johnny. The Browns hosted the Texans in this one. They moved to 6-3 after beating the Texans by a whopping 3 points, 10-7. In this one, there were winds, there was rain, it was all sorts of nastiness. Desean Watson, finally, he did get 1 touchdown through the air here. It took him a while to get there, but he massively underperformed. And we talked about benching him in the live show, in the live stream, the lineup show for Justin Herbert and in a situation like that. So feels good to get that call right. We kind of figured this could be a sloppy game, and it was sloppy all the way down the roster. I mean, Duke Johnson with David Johnson out, 14 carries, 54. Dude. Yeah. It's his performance smelling a little bit like Dookie. 54 yards, only 5 points in PPR scoring. Didn't catch a single ball, only had 1 target. You look at the wide receivers, Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller both with 8 targets, both with under 40 yards though. So only in PPR were they able to salvage their day because it's 5 and 6 catches each. Randall Cobb 3 for 5, 41 yards. I mean, I really feel like this is a throwaway game, Johnny, for this offense and maybe even the Cleveland offense on the whole. I don't know that we need to spend a ton of time here, but why don't you talk a little bit about on that Cleveland sign what you saw out of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt?
Oh, really excited. This is what we thought was going to happen, especially with the weather. We thought it would heavily favor the run game, And we also said that we thought, based on what we've seen in the first few weeks, that it would actually help Kareem Hunt to kind of have that secondary role. His legs stay a little bit fresher, and that's exactly what happened. Nick Chubb looked great. Probably there. Let us know in the comments if there's a good possibility it cost some people some wins this week, or and vice versa. You were able to get a win because Nick Chubb ran out on the 1 yard line, so that way they could eat the rest of the clock out. I was very, very disappointed in that, Travis. I was very excited when I was watching the replay or watching it happen. And then my vast disappointment when he decided to run out the one. But Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think they go back into, Nick Chubb, I think, is like an low-end RB1, mid to low RB1 rest of the season, especially with their schedule. And I think Kareem Hunt is, a solid RB2 with RB1 upside, depending on the matchup.
Yeah, we know this is a run volume team. I mean, they ran the ball 38 times. They threw it only 20, which means Rashad Higgins, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Austin Hooper are very low volume, very uninspiring. All these guys just not really there. Once again, this was a game that was really nasty weather-wise, so it could be a bit of a throwaway game. We'll be looking to regroup with some of those players, looking forward in their matchups down the stretch. I want to get into some of these questions before we get to the next game. Jaws Whedon says, dang, Bonifant on IR too, going back to the Mike Davis situation. Yeah, that's unfortunate for the Panthers. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Johnny and I were talking off air. Jordan Howard waived.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a chance they bring in some, veteran bodies just to get through these couple weeks without CMC and if Davis's thumb injury is real. Samuel Rojas says, what do you think rest of season for Mostert? If he's back in week 11, would love to solidify my RB2 slot. Yeah, that's an interesting take. I mean, a lot of people thought he was close to coming back in this one. JaMychal Hasty breaks his collarbone, Johnny, in this game. And you've got Jerick McKinnon rushing the ball 18 times for only 33 yards. We'll get into that game, but I think the point here that I'm trying to make is that nobody's ran away with this job. And when Mostert's been healthy, he looked really good. So I think if he comes back, you're going to be comfortable with him in your lineup.
Yeah, I would definitely, if he says he's on his bench, if he's on your bench, yeah, I love him. I would keep him there, and I think once he is back, once they put him in, he's healthy enough to play. I like him rest of season as an RB2. Yeah.
Brett Johnson says, can we talk about Dee Hopkins in that post-game interview? Man, was that a special interview, special catch. We'll get into that game. I can't wait to talk about that. I know Johnny's going to be geeked. I got to give him the mic a little bit on that one. Sam Joshi says, Amari Cooper or T. Higgins rest of season? I actually really like this question, Johnny. So what are your thoughts on T. Higgins, Amari Cooper rest of season?
I need to bring up schedule just to solidify it, but my initial
let me just tell you the schedule for T. Higgins.
Okay.
Weeks 12 through 16. The Giants, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Steelers, and the Texans.
Okay. So they really he has one difficult matchup against the Dolphins, basically. But he's acting
he probably
as
won't, he won't be the number one guy.
Yeah.
So
or
Howard
the number two. Or the number two.
Exactly.
So so great rest of season schedule. And then what's Dallas's? Because Dallas has a nice one. Dallas has a nice rest of season schedule as well. But I'll just give you my initial reaction.
Minnesota, Washington, Baltimore, Cincy, San Fran, Philly.
Oh, okay.
So actually it's pretty tougher.
Yeah, tougher. So I would go with T. Higgins here. That you've seen the chemistry is really building, and that you like to see that as, a Cincinnati Bengals fan. You like to see the chemistry building between the rookies. And so I would go, T. Higgins, rest of the season. They're going to continue to throw. The defense isn't that great. You're going to continue to see Joe Burrow trying to climb out from behind,
Sammy Rojas says he was against Chubb, Hunt, and Jacob Stack. It sure helped. Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't fun to be against this week, man. Sorry. Hopefully you survived it, but it doesn't sound good for you. Jaws Whedon says, Bridgewater news due today still, wondering how much to bid on Walker. 4-point passing touchdowns. Johnny, you just broke the Ian Rappaport news. Well, Ian Rappaport broke the news. You just broke his
breaking news.
Can you just repeat what you were saying there about Teddy? And then we'll get to the next game.
He's considered dated. Here's exactly what Bridgewater suffered a somewhat mild MCL sprain on Sunday, but he has not been ruled out for Week 11 against the Lions. The Panthers, which have been cautious training staff, will likely have a verdict on Bridgewater's outlook by midweek. PJ Walker, who replaced Bridgewater against the Buccaneers, it's the Buccaneers. I said the Saints. Would presumably get the nod over Will Grier if Bridgewater is out. So honestly, you might be able to get him a little bit cheaper because the news isn't certain. And so and like he has that scrambling ability upside as well. So I don't mind that. I think you can definitely. I think he's obtainable for sure.
We got 10 of you watching, only 7 likes. If we could get those likes up, we would love that. And we're going to get on to this next game here. And this one was an entertaining one, Johnny. The Detroit Lions win in thrilling fashion over the Washington football team. They moved to 4-5, dropping the Washington football team to 2-7. This was a lot of cool things in this game. Obviously, the play was good. We had Alex Smith starting his first game since injuring himself, and there was all the hype around that. That was a beautiful thing to see, the comeback. Told he might die, told he might never walk again, told he might need to be amputated, told he would never play football again. I'm serious. All these things are factual. And so that's the journey that Alex Smith has been on to get back to play football, and he started his game. So that was awesome. Almost hit 400 yards, 38 of 55, Johnny. 55 times he threw the ball on Sunday, and he didn't score a single touchdown. And that's because the running game got in the end zone, Antonio Gibson, 13 carries, 45 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was 4 of 4 for 20 yards. So he mixed in pretty well, was definitely the higher score. But then J.D. McKissick, 8 carries, 6 yards. He got a rushing touchdown as well. And then once again, 7 of 15 targets, Johnny, for 43 yards. Not very efficient, but 15 targets, man.
Yeah, you'll take that any day in PPR. Like, that's just a PPR monster. He has a tremendously high floor, which is nice. And, you get rewarded every once in a while with the touchdown. So, yeah, I think moving forward, especially in a PPR league, you're looking at McKissick is a good, RB2 upside play every week.
Terry McLaurin continues to ball out. 1 carry for 27 yards, so they got him a little bit involved on a trickeration. 7 of 9 for 95 yards. He did have a fumble, but, Johnny, this is just to say that he does not have less than 8 targets in but 2 games this year, and those 2 games he had 7 targets in. He is an every week plug and play. He is the number 12 wide receiver in standard so far, without the Monday night game played, and then the number 8 in PPR. He's a wide receiver 1, and based on where you got him this year, it was an extreme value.
And he's top 5 in receiving yards on the year in all wide receivers. So
love it. All right, so on the Detroit side of the ball, Johnny, we've got Matt Stafford.
It could be Detroit side of the bar too. It could be.
Yeah, yeah, it's side of the bar for sure. Matt Stafford kind of bouncing back a little bit after a rough week last week. 3 touchdowns, nothing wowing, 276 through the air. But I think the big story out of Detroit is DeAndre Swift, Johnny.
Love it, man. If you watch the show, or if you're subscribed to our show and hit that bell, if you're not, you should do so now. But I have been majorly on DeAndre Swift all season. I said he was going to be the Miles Sanders of this year, and it's really looking like he is, Travis. You look at what he did in this game: 16 carries for 81 yards. He got the bulk of the carries. They came out before the game and said DeAndre Swift is our starter, so they officially named him the starter. And then he also added 5 of 5 receptions for 68 yards and a touchdown. Travis, I think that DeAndre Swift is the real deal. I think Detroit has finally realized that. And you look at what he's done over the last 4 weeks, Travis. He has only once, and it was against the Indianapolis Colts, but that's the only game he's had under 11 fantasy points in a half-point PPR league. I think moving forward, he is a solid RB2, and he has RB1 upside, when he has these great matchups. Well, even this wasn't even a great matchup. So against Washington, they're actually pretty good against the run. So I think DeAndre Swift has RB1 potential rest of season.
Oh, for sure. I mean, think about this, Johnny. Up until 3 weeks ago, he hadn't played over 50% of the snaps, right? He is now the RB14 in standard, the RB13 in PPR. on very limited snaps before then, because over the last 3 weeks, he had 16 carries this week, 13 carries last week. He played his most snaps, 73% of the snap share this last week. You said it right there, man. 5 of 5 in the passing game, 68 yards there with a receiving touchdown. He is the guy they drafted with the high draft capital, and now they're starting to see it. And they won this game. They've got great matchups right here. The next two, Carolina and Houston, over the next two. So you're smashing in DeAndre Swift into the next two games. So I love it, man. I love to see that you were very adamant on this guy, and it's pulled through. And Whisper Nation, who's trusted you with it, it's pulled through for them too.
I got one right.
Yeah. Even a broken clock is wrong twice a day, right?
Yeah.
Marvin Jones, 10 targets, Johnny, 8 receptions, 96 yards and a touchdown. As long as Kenny G is out, I think it's worth the risk to put Marvin Jones in, especially if the matchup's okay. This was a bad matchup, but he balled out.
Yeah.
He is going to be inconsistent. That's the name of the game. But he's going to be worth putting in your lineup, especially Carolina and Houston coming up. Those are some good matchups, as long as we have Kenny Golladay out of the lineup. TJ Hawkinson kind of had a down week, 2 for 4 for 13 yards. I think better days are ahead. He's dealing with a bit of a toe injury.
Seemed more serious,
Yeah,
when
and
you're
then
watching him.
and then it's Carolina, Houston, Chicago. So great tight end matchups coming up. I'm hoping he can just kind of get a little bit healthier, and get in there.
Let me ask you, Marvin Hall, once again filling in quite nicely for in absence of Kenny Golladay. If Kenny Golladay doesn't give it a go, do you have? And you said the matchups they're very nice. Do you have confidence in playing Marvin Hall? 64% of the snaps, so he did see a decrease in snaps over the since the previous two. But he seems to be like their mega big play guy that is filling in for Kenny G.
I don't love the targets. The production isn't great. I think it would be chasing points a little bit, and I'd be much more inclined to chase that with Marvin Jones than Marvin Hall, so to speak. So
yep, I agree.
Let's go to the chat here for a little bit. Samuel Rojas letting us know that he's actually good in that matchup. He's got D Hop and Dalvin and Jefferson tonight, down by 5.5. So you're locked into a win. That's great.
Nice.
Samuel says good
Lime
insight
time,
as always.
as they say.
Appreciate
Lime time.
that. What?
Lime time, as Tony Romo likes
Oh
to
yeah,
say.
exactly. D Smith says looking to package a trade as I need more RB depth. Who is your favorite RB target this week? What's a buy low, Johnny, at RB that you'd be interested in kind of going after?
We know what we say about buy lows around here. There's no such thing. I haven't dove too much into the matchups for this week to see what a good candidate. Be honest with you. I mean, Duke Johnson might be a decent one that comes to mind right away. Simply because he had a terrible game. And a lot of people were thinking that they'd get a lot more, but they play New England next week, and that is the weakness. Not the greatest weakness for New England, but you can get New England in the ground game, and I do expect them to involve them and have a little bit better game than you did today. So that would be just initial kind of thought right now. Maybe Kenyon Drake. You might be able to get Kenyon Drake on the cheap. Because he didn't have a great game, but if you watched it, he looked good. He gets yards. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna get yards, and then I expect at some point his touchdown regression should go into the positive. And and with the ability to argue the Chase Edmonds thing, with Chase Edmonds usage, you might be able to get Kenyon Drake. So maybe that's the right answer, Kenyon Drake. They play Seattle this week, too, so great matchup.
Darius Rice says, sup, guys, back again. What's up, Darius? Appreciate you being in here, man. Started Myers over Deontay Johnson. Just can't get it right with him. Bench him, he balls. Play him, he dubs. What to do, ?
Okay, well, that means I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to be honest with him. Darius, I need you to, if it's with this logic, I have him in all my leagues, so I need you to just bench him the rest of the year, and so he'll do well for me. I'd appreciate that. No, in all honesty, I trust Deontay. For me, Deontay Johnson, I understand the injury risk, for sure. I get it, but anytime he's playing, and if he gets through the whole game, he's getting you, our wide receiver one production. He really is. I know we'll dive into that game in a little bit, Travis, and we'll get into those numbers. But for me, I trust Deontay Johnson moving forward. They've got some pretty good matchups, I believe. And so, yeah, I would keep him in your lineup.
5 of 8 games that he's played, he's actually kind of finished healthy, and he's hit double-digit targets in those. I don't think you can put that on the bench most games now.
Yeah.
If you know he's off the injury report and playing, I think you got to go with him.
Yep.
Roddy Rich says Michael Thomas comes out and blows it. LOL. I started him and AJ Brown this week. Upside down smiley face emoji. Yeah, look, that's the risk you're going to take sometimes with wide receivers. They can be volatile. These guys are studs, though. And I think what's not being talked about is the increase in snap share for Michael Thomas, and we'll get into that. And then the increase in targets, 7 targets this week. He's going to get right, I think, guys, especially down the stretches as they need him. And remember, if Jameis comes into this lineup for a long time, extended time, he's going to air that ball out. Like, that's what that guy does. So we could actually see something we haven't seen from Michael Thomas, which is down the field a whole lot more. So that could be really exciting. Darius Rice says, let's get those likes up. Appreciate that. Jaws Whedon with a thumbs up. Garrett says, what's a good defense to stream this week? Also, I picked up Marvin Jones last week. Should I start him this week? Get back to us on Friday. Also, check the waiver column. I'll have that. We're also going to be have a show tomorrow. We'll have more streaming advice throughout the week. We'll also have our rankings up middle of the week, so you know what's going on there. We just haven't dove into the matchup stuff just yet. Mr. PFT No says, do you think Chris Paul now gets first in line? Oh, man. He's talking about the Barstool Sports Phoenix Suns.
Oh, gosh, that's hilarious.
He's asking if
done.
Chris Paul
Hey, that was
get in on the action.
Hey, that was pretty funny.
You never know. He's probably one of the team leaders now. So I imagine he gets second dibs behind Booker.
I got one for Garrett. Just a quick one, Travis, to go back. Garrett, right now, go if you can go and pick up Kansas City Chiefs defense because they have not played this week. So if you have a spot open, go pick up Kansas City. They play Las Vegas next week. That line is susceptible, and that's a game that Kansas City should be up by. So there should be opportunities there. I would do that, and then we can get back to you if we find a better matchup. But you can go and get them now and kind of have a good backup plan that you could potentially roll with. But that's just something real quick, Travis. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. The next game on the schedule is my Green Bay Packers facing the Jacksonville Jaguars in Green Bay. Another windy game. Kind of conditions were a little wild. The Jaguars playing the Packers tough in this one up until like the middle of the fourth quarter. On the Jaguars side of the ball, it wasn't anything really special. Jake Luton, 18 of 35, 169 yards and a touchdown interception. You weren't starting him anyways. We told you not to. We did say James Robinson had a great matchup, and he had the production volume-wise. He wasn't as efficient as you would like, and he didn't get into the end zone. But he had 23 carries, Johnny, for 109 yards, 13 PPR fantasy points on 2 of 5 for 3 yards. And DJ Shark.
He's another one you might be able to buy low on, Travis, having that conversation, just because the last 2 weeks he hasn't really wowed, and he gets Pittsburgh this week, which Pittsburgh allows they'll run the ball in that game, but I don't know how cheap you will be able to get it. I don't know if it's a buy low necessarily, but
Keelan Cole had himself a day here.
Yeah, dude.
7 targets, 5 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown. DJ Shark, 4 of 5 for 56 yards. It just didn't seem like a good game for Luton with the wind and what he was able to do. We were really high on Shark because of Jair Alexander missing this game, but it just didn't come to fruition here, Johnny.
Yeah, the unfortunate part, Travis, was that DJ Shark had like a 70-yard bomb where he was wide open, and Luton tried to
just miss.
Yeah, just. I mean, it was the wind for sure. So if it wasn't a windy day, you would have had another 70-yard bomb that would have happened. It would have looked great. He would have had another 20-point play. So I think better days are ahead for Chark. He's got a great matchup great schedule moving forward. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Minnesota, all of those teams, and then Tennessee. Even all 4 of those teams are great teams to pass on. So better days ahead, I think, for Chark.
just want to say what's up to the Fantasy Football Show host, Smitty.
What's
What's
up?
going on, Smitty? Smitty in here saying, "Sup, fellas? Keep it coming. Appreciate you, man. You're one of the OGs in this industry. We appreciate you
Yeah.
popping in to let us know what's going on." Yeah, so on that Jacksonville side, other than James Robinson, it's kind of believable that this thing would happen. On the Packers side, Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers for the most part. Like, it wasn't a great game, but he did it for you here, right?
Well-
Like 325, 2 touchdowns. He did have one pick. One of the worst throws I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers throw. I would hope to blame it on the wind, but he did not lead the receiver at all and just got picked. The pocket was picked there. He also ran a touchdown in, showing that he is the white Michael Vick. No, it was good to see him get a rushing touchdown there. Johnny, Aaron Jones, pretty disappointing here. I mean, Jacksonville had an answer for us defensively. It was actually pretty impressive to me. I don't know if it was the conditions or what, but Aaron Jones, 13 carries, 46 yards, 5 of 6 for 49 yards. Like, in PPR, he's giving you over 12 points. He just didn't pop like we're used to seeing him pop in this one.
Yeah, Travis, I think it is something that we need to talk about because you had Jamal Williams come in and get 8 carries for 30 yards and then also add some of the or get some targets, right? 3 for 4 for 25 yards. I believe that because Jamal was productive while Aaron Jones was out, that you could see some more of this where it is more of a 60-40 split. So I don't know if you'll start getting the games that you had in the beginning of the season. But listen, Aaron Jones is the type of guy that he doesn't need. He's Alvin Kamara light. He doesn't need a ton of touches in order to be super efficient or to make your fantasy day. But yeah, I do think his ceiling is going to be a little bit capped moving forward, which is not the best news you want to hear if you roster Aaron Jones. But I mean, he's an RB1, maybe a low end RB1 now, as opposed to maybe a high end RB1 the rest of the season.
Got some tough matchups too. We got Indy, Chicago, and Philly next, but that playoff schedule, Johnny, Detroit, Carolina, and Tennessee.
Juicy.
I would be fine with sticking with Aaron Jones. I think his floor is around 10 points, and we've seen his ceiling. It's week winning.
So maybe
I think.
Do you think he might be a good buy low opportunity? I mean, he hasn't. He's been injured.
If you could buy low, I don't know that the Aaron Jones GM is going to be that dumb, but to me, I think there's a situation here where you could buy low. Hey, the injury, he hasn't really popped since the injury. You should give him to me.
You should give him to me.
That's the whole strategy right
like,
there.
realistically, would you rather have, like, let's say you're the Eckler owner, right? What if you said the Eckler owner went and said Eckler and some throw-in wide receiver that's, I don't know, maybe like a Sterling Shepard or maybe like a Marquis Brown for Aaron Jones? What would you rather have?
I mean, I think I'd like to know when Eckler is actually going to come back. Like, is it going to be this week? Is it going to be next week? I don't know. And so it's because I don't know that I'm sticking with the Aaron Jones side of the deal here. Like, I would rather have a guy I can plug in, especially now as we're in the playoff push, Johnny. You need to be starting to stack up these wins and getting yourself in position. In the wide receiving room for the Packers, Johnny, MVS has now put 2 back-to-back games together of big playability, kind of limiting the mental mistakes. So now that I'm putting my trust in him, he will definitely disappoint this next week. But I will definitely be writing about MVS in the waiver column if his roster percentage is low enough, because back-to-back weeks now, Johnny, 10 targets over his last 2 weeks, but 149 yards in this game on 6 targets. 4 catches and a touchdown on a beautiful just readjustment to a ball by Aaron Rodgers, and then he just burned the secondary for Jacksonville on his way to a touchdown. You look at Devonte Adams. Look, Devonte Adams may have had his worst game in his career, and he still had 66 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 12 times. He had a couple drops. He had a fumble. He rolled up his, I believe it was his ankle.
Yeah, there was a little bit of injury concern there.
But he came back into the game and caught one of the most beastly catches I have seen in a long time. Just like went up high for the ball, slammed into the ground, and got up like nothing happened. And it was really nice to see him struggle and then mentally put it behind himself, and he continues a torrid pace, wide receiver 3 in standard, wide receiver 2 in PPR without the Monday Night Football game. Moving on to the
well, I just want to
go ahead.
touch real quick on MBS, Travis. I would actually leave that dynamite on the waiver wire for other people because you look at their next two matchups, Indianapolis and Chicago, both difficult, right? And then you look at Lazard potentially coming back. And so it's like, yes, you always want to have MBS on your roster when he goes off like this, but I would almost make the gamble and I'd say let my opponent pick him up, play him, because the downside that is what we saw a few weeks ago, the 0.9 points or 2.8 points. So that's just my 2 cents on MBS, but I love MBS. That's
tough
my
matchups
thing.
too, like we just said too. Indy, Chicago, Philly over the next 3, so that could be kind of tough. So I like the insight there. Definitely something I'll be monitoring with the waiver column that comes out. We've got 11 of you watching, 12 likes. We really appreciate you guys in here. We're going to get to some of your questions right now. Cat's Pajamas says, Darius Rice says, with CMC, Davis, and Teddy possibly out, what's the status of this offense? And look, they're going to play Detroit, which has not been a very good defense. But yeah, I mean, with all those weapons out, you might even be looking at Detroit against a PJ Walker team as a good streamable defense. So that's a good point, Darius.
Yeah.
Glad you brought that up. The Cat's Pajamas, what's up, guys? Thoughts on Cam Newton rest of season? Johnny, I'll let you take a stab at Cam Newton rest of season. He's starting to at least play a little bit more determined.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like his confidence is a little bit better. They pulled off a big win against Baltimore last night.
Yeah, it was a really good. I was happy for him. He's got Houston next week, so that's a nice matchup. Arizona and LA Chargers. He's got some decent matchups, but then I don't particularly like his playoff schedule. LA Rams, Miami, Buffalo is a decent matchup in Week 16. I think he's okay. I think that he is a nice, solid fill-in. I think his upside is capped because I don't see them throwing as much. You heard a lot of it last night if you watched the games. They talked about they were talking about the coaching staff, and the coaching staff was like, listen, we know what we are now. We're 10 weeks in. We can't stop. We can't keep trying to be something we're not. We know what we are. We're a running team. They have one of the best offensive line in football. All 5 of their offensive linemen are like top 20, ranked by Pro Football Focus. So you're going to see a lot of rushing. You'll continue to see a lot of Cam rushing touchdowns. So that's what I expect. I don't expect him to be, what the potential we thought was in the first few weeks where he's putting up, 40-point games. I don't see that as an outcome.
Got some decent matchups too. Houston, Arizona, and the Chargers over the next 3. So it might be worth a stream over the next 3 weeks, but it does tighten up a little bit there. Smitty says Hopkins is good, by the way. I responded someone should tell Bill O'Brien that.
Right.
And he killed it.
Yeah, that was
Harry
awesome.
Hippo says, I really need a tight end in my standard league. A person in my league offered to give me Mark Andrews for either Will Fuller or T. Higgins. Should I accept that trade? And if I do, which one of the ones should I give?
I would 100% do this trade.
You would trade which one of those guys? You would give up one of those guys for Mark Andrews right now?
100%. And I'll tell you why. Something that's going untalked about right now by a lot is the Boyle injury. Nick Boyle had a season injury. It looked terrible. It was bendy knee, opposite direction. Don't look it up if you're not of the faint heart. But with him out now, I definitely do see you started to see Mark Andrews on the field now. A part of that was they didn't have another tight end on the roster. So, but I even the next tight end that they're going to pull up is not going to be nearly as beneficial of having Mark Andrews. And you saw the offense really start moving when Mark Andrews was continuously on the field. He got the vast majority of his targets. So I think that's going on, and their schedule coming up. We'll talk about it when we get to Baltimore, but their schedule coming up is very tight end friendly. So yeah, I would do that. I would trade Will Fuller. I would trade. I'm fine trading either one of these. But honestly, I love T. Higgins' rest of season schedule. I love that chemistry there. and so I would do I would
Just
trade
a
Will
point
Fuller.
on the Houston schedule coming up, where as opposed to T. Higgins, which is pretty much all green if you're looking in your app, uh, Will Fuller faces New England, Detroit, Indy, Chicago, Indy. Those are all very tough
Yep.
matchups. Doesn't get a good matchup till week 16. Now, this is Will Fuller, and he could definitely pop, but like as far as schedule wise, I think you're leaning on T. Higgins right now. And it hasn't been Fuller who's led the team in targets
Yep.
over the last 4 weeks. It's actually been Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So if you want to make the argument that Will Fuller's the one, he's not exactly the one in his own offense, and neither is T. Higgins. But I think that's the right move, and especially when he says Harry Hippo says his other wide receivers are Keenan Allen and Calvin Ridley. So this
Yeah.
gives you a lot of depth to be able to pull off this move
Yeah.
and get better at tight end. So yes, do that deal, and I think me and Johnny agree that Will Fuller would be the better sell piece there.
Yep.
One of the forgettable games, this one's just a weird game, Johnny. The New York Giants beat the Philadelphia Eagles 27-17. The Giants move to 3-7. The Eagles go to 3-5-1. And Carson Wentz continues to look bad, Johnny. This was all over the place, though. If you look at it, like Jalen Reagor had led the team in targets with 7. Okay, Richard Rodgers led the team in receiving yards with 60. You had Boston Scott score a rushing touchdown. Corey Clement score a rushing touchdown. Miles Sanders get 15 carries, which led the team for 85 yards. He got a 2-point conversion. Carson Wentz, no touchdowns, 208 yards. Like, this was all over the place. It was very disappointing. You couldn't have pegged it to go this way. How are you feeling? Because we came into Sunday thinking that Philly could turn this around. They were getting pieces back, and the Giants just kind of made them look silly.
And you know what's even more frustrating, Travis? It's going to just tease us because we've got Cleveland and Seattle as the next 2 matchups. And you're going to say, yeah, like, sign me up. I want a piece of that. And I don't know if you can trust him. That's the unfortunate part because he's so the big problem is he's getting pressured like unbelievably at an unbelievable rate. And so he's not being allowed enough time to allow his wide receivers to get truly open. It's clearly affecting how he's throwing. So I can't say, that he's a reliable streamer for the next few weeks. I don't know that.
I think the only thing I can take solace in, I think better days ahead are there for Reagor, who's getting 7 targets. He's increasing his usage. I think better days are ahead for Miles Sanders, who had 15 carries. He was fine, really, at the end of the day. He could have used one of those touchdowns for sure, and I'm sure Sanders owners like myself are pissed about that, but you're going to have a situation like that. And I would say Dallas Goedert, even, who climbed all the way up from before the bye, 83% of the snaps. After the bye, 93% of the snaps, 6 targets. That was one off from the team lead in a bad game for them. I think there's going to be some better days ahead here. I got to believe that Philly can get this right. Otherwise, maybe I'm just going to be an idiot about it. Who knows?
Yeah, he was dealing with a little bit of an injury in this game. But
yeah. On the other side of the ball, Daniel Jones just rushing like he's a flipping maniac out there. 9 carries, 64 yards, got a rushing touchdown. But here's the bigger thing, Johnny. He didn't turn the ball over at all.
That's good, and they won.
Imagine
that.
I would like to talk about Wayne Gallman, Johnny. 18 carries, 53 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns here. Look, Gallman is an RB2 for you. He's going to plug in, get you the usage, not be pretty, but can fall in. He's now scored in 4 straight games, and this was a double touchdown game, so you love that.
100%. I didn't want to believe in it, but now with with him being the only running back now, Wayne Gallman, he looked good in this game. I'll have to admit on that. He looked good. I think that you're right, RB2 rest of the way. And man, it just makes you wonder. If these guys are able to put up these kind of numbers, what would Saquon be putting up right now? That's just, oh, man.
He'd probably be putting up similar, if not better.
More like I would bet on the over.
Darius Slayton got involved here in this game. Look, it's hard to peg when it's going to happen for Slayton, and that's the issue. But he did go 5 of 7 for 93 yards. Sterling Shepard 6 of 6 for 47. Golden Tate forgettable, so I won't even read his stat line. Evan Ingram in an absolute smash spot, underwhelmed completely. 2 for 3 for 15 yards. The moral of the story here is outside of Wayne Gallman, who we know is going to get the ball 12 to 15 times. I don't really want anybody else
Yeah.
because I'm not going to know when this roller coaster is going to go up or down or fall off the tracks. And I just feel like that's, the risk at any given week. We'll talk more about this when we get into the matchup shows, of course, but just nothing really to write home about for the New York Giants. Now it's time to talk about the game of the week here, at least for Johnny. The Arizona Cardinals defeat the Buffalo Bills in thrilling fashion, 32-30. They move to 6-3, ahead of a date with the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills move to 7-3. Johnny, I got to give you the mic here, man. How was it, man?
What an epic win this was. I was telling Travis before the show and Austin, we were having our production meeting, and this is one of those moments that I'll always remember for the rest of my life. And it has to do with the fact that because of my obsession with fantasy football and wanting to get a win in my league of record, I was going against Seattle and Russell Wilson, and I was glued to that game as well. So I did not see the initial heave, but I saw the coming, him catching it, DeAndre Hopkins catching it, and the crowd of players just like swarming. I had no idea what was going on. The next thing I see is Kyler Murray, and he's out of bounds, facing away from the play. So I really got confused at what just happened. And but watching the replay, texting all of you guys, all of my friends, it was a very awesome moment. We can't stop talking about it in Arizona. And it was a gift. It was a gift by Bill O'Brien, and we thank him because it was well worth giving up David Johnson in that second round pick to get Dee Hopkins for that moment.
And that post game interview where Hopkins is just flexing nuts, basically in the interview, saying like, "Yeah, they were in good position. They're great players. It was just a better catch."
By eye.
I'm just yeah.
That's what he said.
It was so good. It was so
I loved
good.
how he was like. It was like in basketball we call that getting dunked on.
Dunked on. He did the whole hand on the head.
But he's
thing.
but it was on 3 players.
Surprised he didn't even have like a cigar in his mouth, just puffing a cigar, just going full Arnold Schwarzenegger, saying, "Hey, I'm a stud. I'm ballsy."
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Let's talk with the Buffalo side of the ball. Josh Allen continued to put a good game together. 32 of 49 yards, 284 passing yards. 32 of 49 attempts, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks. He also ran a touchdown in. Like, this is what Josh Allen does. He's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, but he's the number 2 QB with the Monday night game not played. So you love that. The running backs continue to be forgettable. Like, we know who the goal line running back is for the Bills. It's, Josh Allen. So it's really hard to have any upside with these guys. Hopefully, Whisper Nation, you've gotten out of that Buffalo backfield if you can. I have to give it up to Evan Silva, who we had on the mock draft marathon, and I tried to see what his thoughts were on, Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, and he said exactly that. He said, look, these guys are going to take away from each other, and then Josh Allen's going to take away from both of them. That seems to be the case here. There's just nothing really to see here where the running backs are concerned. We go to the wide receiving core, and it was really good for all 3 of them. John Brown, 6 of 8 for 72 yards. In PPR, that's over double-digit points. Stephon Diggs, again, with double-digit targets, 10 of 11, 93 yards and a touchdown. And then Cole Beasley getting involved over here, leading the team in targets, 13 catches, 11, 109 receiving yards. That led the team as well. 1 touchdown. He also got a tackle on a pick. I mean, so if you're playing those bonuses, he got you that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think, look, if you look at what the Bills have coming up, Johnny, and it's not anything that scares you. They've got the bye this week. And then they play the Chargers, the 49ers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Denver Broncos. So the Steelers and Niners maybe on paper would scare you, but they've been letting up through the air, so I really don't think that scares you too much. I like Josh Allen. I like this passing offense going down the stretch here. On the Arizona side of the ball, Kyler Murray continuing to do what he does. 2 more rushing touchdowns on the day. You got another one through the air. Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake. Johnny, talk to us a little bit about this split. We were wondering how it would come in, and it seems to be not exactly the 80-20 split we were having before, 90-10. A little more 60-40, 70-30. But what did you see out of the running backs this week?
Yeah, Kenyon Drake looked good. He continues to be the yardage guy, 16 carries, 100 yards. He did get one target finally, but he also did fumble the ball. And yeah, Chase Edmonds, 8 carries, 56 yards, 3 for 3, and the receptions for 21 yards. I think you can trust Drake as an RB2 moving forward. His foot seems to be fine for now. We say that for now. I would maybe use this opportunity. Well, it's hard to say use this opportunity to go get Chase Edmonds if you're a Drake owner, but I would like to have them as a handcuff just in case anything does happen with that foot. But you're looking at Kenyon Drake as just a solid RB2 moving forward, and I expect that at some point the touchdown regression to start coming, or in the positive sense for Drake. And so if you're adding, if you're getting 100 yards and a touchdown like that, you're very happy with your running back. I mean, that's what essentially Nick Chubb got. He got a little bit more than that. But, I think that Kenyon Drake is a solid RB2 moving forward, and their matchups are quite nice for running backs. So
The wide receiving core was pretty much DeAndre Hopkins, 7 of 12 for 127 yards and that touchdown at the end, obviously. Christian Kirk had a low game, 4 of 6 for 27. Fitzgerald kind of non-existent, 2 of 5 for 13 yards. This was a game that was really heavy in the run game for Arizona, both with the running backs and with Kyler Murray. So I would imagine some better things are ahead, especially right around the corner for Arizona against the Seattle defense that's just been destroyed by wide receivers and quarterbacks this year. Going to jump into some of these questions. We appreciate you guys watching us. Make sure you get those likes up. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe. And we will continue to try and get out this content for you each and every day. Harry Hippo says, when do you expect Mixon to come back from injury? I really thought he was going to make it back last week against Pittsburgh. He just wasn't ready. It's a scary situation. I don't know if he's going to come back this week or not, because he started practicing in a limited fashion last week and then didn't end up practicing by the end of the week. That's never a good sign.
yeah.
So let's see. The Cat's Pajama says, thanks, guys. You appreciate you, man. Samuel Rojas says, do you think Burkhead is worth rostering? I know Harris seems to be the lead back, but Burkhead seems pretty involved.
I think if you're
Johnny,
in
you want to take a stab at that?
you're in a deep enough league, then yeah, I think it's fine rostering him. I just don't. Again, you're going to continue to see a rotation. I'm not sure if you can guarantee or count on that production. So my initial thought is not unless you really need a running back.
And I'd say more in PPR than anything. I wouldn't be kind of floating it around in standard. He's only had double-digit carries twice this year, and that's just the nature of all the different backs. It'd be hard for me to want to invest too much. Let's see here. The All-Star Gamer says, I win in fantasy if Dalvin Cook gets 1 point. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to win in fantasy this week.
Yeah.
You bank that. Barry Robinson says, Harry, don't trade Fuller or T. Higgins for Mark Andrews unless you have good wide receiver depth. Barry, it looks like you're coming in a little late. Maybe you missed all this. He has Calvin Ridley and Keenan Allen also on his team, so we're very comfortable with that trade. Also, you said right here that Andrews is not giving you consistent value. Yeah, he hasn't, but no tight end really has, and this is a tight end who just watched the guy who was stealing snaps from him get injured, as Johnny said. And he increased his usage in this last game. So I actually think Andrews' arrows are pointing quite a bit up. Some of the peripheral usage has been there. So yeah, it hasn't been consistent. No tight end has. If you're looking to try and get tight end and lock it up, why not trade a guy that you're probably not going to start based on your wide receiver depth for a guy you are going to start? Mantol says, should I trade Fulgham for Melvin Gordon, Johnny?
If you need RB help, then yeah, I guess I would, but I just don't even feel confident in Melvin Gordon. I think he's more of a low-end RB2, high-end RB3, just because Phillip Lindsay is also there, and I expect that team to be in a lot of trailing a lot, which would bode well for Melvin Gordon because he gets the passing down work. It just when you're splitting time and you're only getting some of that. So if you need RB help, then sure, I don't mind it, but I almost am interested to see where Fulgham goes. This just seemed a bad game for Philadelphia. I'm not got people texting me. about the Suns and stuff. But yeah.
So the next game on the docket here is the Miami Dolphins, who hosted the Los Angeles Chargers, who continue, to lose games each and every week. On the Charger side, Justin Herbert continuing to just put up 20 or more points. That's kind of what he does. 20 of 32, 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown as well. He did have an interception. But he, continues to kind of put up points. And then Kalen Ballage, Johnny, who we did say with Justin Jackson out was a good start.
Yeah.
He had 18 carries, 68 yards. This was interesting, though. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 34 yards. So getting usage in the passing game as well. Over 15 points in PPR formats. Josh Kelly, I think, is droppable at this point. I don't think Josh Kelly is going to do anything for your fantasy rosters that we want him to, especially with Eckler back on the horizon. Kelly has not looked like he's going to be very good this year, at least.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen, I believe this is his first game in this is his first game in over a month, under 10 targets. He had 7 targets, 39 yards, but did salvage the day with a touchdown. Mike Williams, 2 of 5 for 38 yards. Just seemed like a real look. We knew this could happen with Miami's secondary.
Yeah.
And then Hunter Henry, we kind of knew a bounce back game could be in order here. 4 of 6 for 30 yards and a tutty. He finally got into the end zone there. Anything really standing out to you on the Chargers side? Just the Austin Eckler watch, maybe?
Yeah, just on the Austin, I'm hearing maybe it's still a couple more weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks away before he comes back. Better days ahead for Keenan Allen. Yeah.
All right, on the Miami side of the ball, Johnny, Tua Tagovailoa, 15 of 25, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nothing very special there. We weren't really suggesting that you play him here. He was maybe worth a deep stream, but nothing too crazy. I think the big story here is Jordan Howard not playing, getting waived this morning, and Salvon Ahmed, 21 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously will make the waiver column again. I did have him in there last year because of the pop that he only had 7 carries last week, but went for 35 yards and really kind of flashed some juice. Patrick Laird, DeAndre Washington, they combined for 4 carries here. So really Ahmed looks to be the Myles Gaskin role, and Gaskin likely still at least to miss at least 1 more week. So Ahmed could really get you through a bye week, Phil, here this week, and then maybe keep the job.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I got mixed up in my weeks, but you're absolutely right. Could come back after this next week, but it will be interesting if he continues to put out like this. I mean, that's pretty productive. You could see some more of a time split, which is what I think they initially wanted, right? Like if you remember back in the beginning, they were trying to do it with the Jordan Howard and stuff. And I think you could see it here. Definitely something to monitor. But yeah, I love him as a play this week. If you need an RB, if you have some players on bye, I think that he is a great target. Once again, they just got torched by Josh Jacobs on the ground. It's not the greatest matchup, but certainly if I'm getting 21 carries, you go where the usage is, and he's looked good as well. So. Quote DeAndre Hopkins, 2 + 4 = 6.
Yep. The next game on the docket was the Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Denver Broncos and just smoking them, 37-12 in this game. They moved to 6-3. Broncos moved to 3-6. Drew Lock, 4 interceptions, Johnny, in this game. 1 touchdown. Just looked really bad, like really, really bad. Getting a lot of flack from Denver media for smiling on the bench too during this blowout loss. So,
you think this is funny?
A lot of stuff. What's that?
I said, you think this is funny? You remember that?
Exactly.
That Derek Anderson when he got caught laughing on the sidelines of the Cardinals game.
Yeah. In PPR formats, all 3 of Jerry Jeudy, Deshaun Hamilton, and Tim Patrick all got 10 or more points. KJ Hamler coming in with 9. So even in this game where Drew was pretty bad, the wide receivers are still playable here. I think that's the takeaway here. The running backs are going to need positive game script. I really thought this was going to be a good game for Denver running backs against the Raiders, who've been, susceptible to the running back position. But it just didn't come to fruition here. Noah Fant continues to lumber around. Looks like he really still is kind of banged up here. Kind of a forgettable game for this offense, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Drew Lock is the unfortunate part. Like he's just really inconsistent. But I'll tell you what, if they get an actual consistent quarterback behind center next, out for this wide receiver group because they're talented, and you've got to remember they don't have their best piece in Sutton as well. So look out for this wide receiver core moving forward.
Derek Carr makes it 3 straight games under 15 fantasy points. Gets the Chiefs next week, but I don't know if I could trust Derek Carr much going forward. He's kind of hit the rock bottom.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because they're leaning on Jacobs yet again. 21 carries, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Josh Jacobs bouncing back in a big way against Denver. Devontae Booker in a revenge game. 16 carries, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Any kind of interest in Booker? Back-to-back games here, Johnny, with some tutties.
Yeah.
8 carries and then 16 carries. Maybe a flex play?
Maybe it's again Kansas City next week is on this land, then Atlanta, New York Jets. Quite the nice next 3 weeks. I don't know if I trust him all the way, but he has seen his snaps increase over the last 3 weeks from 15-25 to 36. Travis. So, listen, if Derek Carr's not gonna get it done for you, which it's looking like it's not, then yeah, I think that in certain situations, Booker would be a nice flex play.
I think you're fading all these pass catchers outside of Darren Waller. We've known that. Darren Waller didn't have a great game, but 3 of 5 for 37. That's his lowest target count in 5 weeks. So a little concerning there, but you imagine he bounces back next week against Kansas City. They're going to need to throw a bit to get in that game, even though it is a tough matchup.
Yep.
The next game on the slate was the New Orleans Saints, who lost Drew Brees in this game. We've talked about Drew Brees dealing with a collapsed lung, rib fractures. They win the game 27-13. They moved to 7-2 over the San Francisco 49ers. On the 49ers side of the ball, Johnny, Nick Mullins, not very impressive. 24 of 38, 247 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. You weren't really starting Nick Mullins anyway. But Jerick McKinnon, I think what was encouraging here, terrible matchup for him, and he was not very efficient at all, but 18 carries.
Yeah.
The usage was there. If Mostert doesn't come back, you're going to have them. Well, they have a bye. I imagine that'll give Mostert some more time, and then they have the Rams after the bye. Are you stashing McKinnon still through the bye here?
If you need to drop him, I totally understand. With the reports that Mostert is supposed to come back after. But I would try not to because you never know what could happen. There could be setbacks, and 18 carries. Look, New Orleans Saints D line is really good. You don't attack them through the ground game. So to know that he still got 18 carries, I would still keep him on my bench if I can.
So people asking us a lot about Michael Thomas. I want to point out that Drew Brees had 13 attempts. Jameis Winston only had 10. That's 23 combined attempts in this game. They just didn't need to throw the ball all that much. They were playing a beat-up San Francisco team that they handled. Alvin Kamara, 8 carries for 15 yards, but 2 touchdowns on the ground. He also had 8 receptions, dominated the target market share, 83 yards through the air for them, and a touchdown there. So Kamara doing what he does here and just kind of being hyper-efficient. And I think the point that I'm trying to make here is let's not panic completely on Michael Thomas just yet, okay? Like I think with Jameis Winston, we've seen Jameis Winston make multiple wide receivers relevant in his past. Now with maybe a Sean Payton high-tempo offense, where he's going to be able to dump off to Alvin Kamara more, maybe we get less mistakes out of Jameis Winston and more opportunity for Michael Thomas to kind of go down the field, not something he's used to with Drew Brees. So I actually think pump the brakes a little bit on the panic for Michael Thomas.
Well, and then you just said it, right? Like 23 passing attempts. Well, Michael Thomas got 7, so that's like just under 30% market share. I'll sign me up for that. So,
Right.
Yeah. Completely.
The next game on the docket here was the Pittsburgh Steelers staying undefeated, Johnny, going to 9-0 over the Cincinnati Bengals. 36-10 was the final score here. Ben Roethlisberger. We'll start on the Pittsburgh side. 4 touchdowns, Johnny, over 300 yards. He was magnificent against that Bengals defense, or if that's what you could call it. Connor continues to be kind of underperforming over his last 2 games. 9 carries last week against Dallas for only 22 yards, 13 carries this week for only 36 yards. Not getting quite the usage he was getting in the middle of the year through the passing game, only 2 catches on 2 targets for 12 yards. Just not looking all that great here, Johnny.
No, but he did see 88% of the snaps, and I'll just say this: he gets Jacksonville next week, so he fire him up. But I do think that there is some concern. There's definitely caution flags. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to. I mean, they're winning, so they're not going to change up their formula right now.
Johnny, we were talking about Juju Smith-Schuster and our concern for him up until week 6, but Johnny, now over the last 4 weeks, 14, 8, 7, 13 targets in each of those games, he is kind of back.
Yeah, I mean, I do still think he's the third on that kind of pecking order behind Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. But I mean, in this game, obviously he wasn't. But I do think that it will interchange between Claypool and Juju as far as who's that secondary, leading option. I do think that Deontay Johnson is probably on most weeks going to be the target leader, and then I could see some games, but depending on matchup, Juju could see more targets than Claypool, but. Let me look at this. I'm going to look at their schedule here, Travis. Jacksonville, Baltimore, Washington, Buffalo. All of those games, I would say I'd feel confident starting all of their wide receivers. You might look at Baltimore and say, "Oh, I don't know about Baltimore." But you've seen they're getting really banged up. You had Calais Campbell now on IR. They have 2 other major injuries last night. So look out for that. That could be a little bit better of a matchup than we think it is right now. So I think that you can start them all moving forward. It's just your level of confidence on a week-to-week matchup play.
Tee Higgins continues the breakout for Cincinnati, 7 of 9 for 115 yards and a touchdown. He did have a fumble, but still had a great game in PPR, over 20 points. We said it was him and Tyler Boyd you could feel comfortable with, and that kind of equated to that. I know Boyd had a tough game, 6 of 8 for 41 yards only, but in PPR, that was fantastic. And then A.J. Green, once again, I think 0 catches, 5 targets. A.J. Green is not going to happen for this offense this year.
Nope.
Joe Burrow, we didn't tell you to start him here. This was a tough matchup, so we understand that he, just could not get it done against this tough Pittsburgh team. And then Giovanni Bernard was pretty underwhelming as well. We're hoping to get Joe Mixon back. You're looking at the schedule for Cincinnati coming up. You've got Washington next week, but then the Giants, Miami, Dallas, Houston's in there as well in between Pittsburgh. So there's some good matchups coming up for this offense, and we know they're going to be able to put points on the board. Quickly going to the next game here, we've got the Los Angeles Rams hosting and beating the Seattle Seahawks to move to 6-3. It moves Seattle to 6-3. Russell Wilson back-to-back games now, really taking himself out of the MVP discussion and really knocking himself down in the fantasy quarterback position as well.
Yeah, definitely will be interesting to see if they kind of go without and let Russ simmer now, because he's been throwing all these picks. You heard Pete Carroll after the game saying it's not acceptable. They can't. Something's got to give. And so I can honestly see them going back, and it makes sense for them to run a little bit more, Travis, than they have been, because that defense is so bad and can't hold up. It would make sense for them to try to hold the ball a little bit more, not score so quickly. But I'm not the head coach of Seattle, so who knows? But I will say, have confidence in Russell Wilson this week. He gets Arizona Cardinals this week, and they've just been in all these shootouts. So, and again, their defense is going against Kyler, so I expect this to be another shootout. So I would feel confident in getting Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, 4 turnovers in the first 5 weeks. In the last 4 weeks, he's got 7, 9, 10 turnovers in the last 4 weeks. So Johnny, it's maybe it is a point that they need to not let him cook as much and work in, and I think it would help if Chris Carson came back. Obviously that's going to help a lot to that respect, because right now you've just got this mix of guys. I mean, Alex Collins led the team in carries with 11 carries, 43 yards, got a touchdown. DJ Dallas, 2 carries. Travis Homer, 3 receptions. So it just kind of mix We thought it might be a Tyler Lockett game. This offense just really could not get going at any
No.
point, and that's a testament to the Rams defense, and especially Jalen Ramsey blanking DK Metcalf here, 2 of 4 for 28 yards. Look, I think the bottom line here is like DK is great, but so is Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, and they really schemed them. It'll be interesting to take note that Seattle does play the LA Rams again championship week, week 16. So definitely something to be interested in. DK was open on several plays downfield, got a little frustrated because Russell wasn't taking the shots. And I mean, do you blame him when he's throwing all these picks left and right, like Oprah Winfrey, just giving out free stuff left and right? Everyone gets a pick. But yeah, I think better days ahead for sure.
Look, Whisper Nation, I want to sincerely apologize for being on the Jared Goff bandwagon here. He did not get it done for you. 302 yards, great yardage day. Didn't score a single touchdown, fumbled the ball. And that's because the running backs got all the touchdowns. Malcolm Brown with 2 touchdowns. Darrell Henderson with a touchdown. Cam Akers led the team in rushing as far as 10 carries for 38 yards. But 6 carries for Malcolm Brown, 7 carries for Darrell Henderson. We are in full RBBC mode with this backfield. It's going to be hard to start anyone outside of Henderson, in my opinion, just because he's going to be the one guy that I think starts the game and gets going. But we'll see how that progresses over the next couple of weeks, too, with Cam Akers back and healthy. Josh Reynolds got involved here. Johnny, I got to get hats off to you. I think you suggested Reynolds as a deeper play. 8 catches on 10 targets for 94 yards. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods just didn't have it really today or on Sunday. So you just kind of hope the better days are ahead for them. I think this was a really weird.
They don't have
really
it today
weird
either.
Yeah. All right, and our final matchup, Johnny, was the Sunday night game. The New England Patriots hosted the Baltimore Ravens. Patriots with an upset win here in a windy, rainy, nasty game. They win it 23-17. They moved to 4-5. They moved the Ravens to 6-3. Lamar Jackson did get 2 touchdowns through the air. He ran for 55 yards on the ground, gave you more than 20 points. This was honestly one of his better games, given the conditions that he's had over the last couple weeks. And he's going to get a nice Tennessee squad up next. I think you're feeling a little bit better about Lamar Jackson than you were going into this week. And then once again, like the Rams that we just talked about, with Mark Ingram back, this is nastiness in the running game for the Ravens that you don't want any part of. 7 carries for Gus Edwards. That was a team high. 5 carries for Mark Ingram for 5 yards. I mean, that is just disgusting. Get him off the field, please.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins, 5 carries, 13 yards. I mean, this was a bad game. And I think that Marquis Brown, I want to get to Marquis Brown here, Johnny. I think you can probably move on from Marquis Brown.
Yeah, I do. I keep saying that, but I don't know if I can quite get myself to do it, and I'll tell you why. Travis, just as we were talking about with Mark Andrews, check this out for the next upcoming schedule. Tennessee at Pittsburgh, Dallas at Cleveland, Jacksonville, New York Giants. That's the rest of the season. You've got some tremendous secondaries that can be burned. I don't mind it if you need to drop Marquise Brown. It could be one of those, you put on the bomb on the waiver wire, let somebody else, want to pick him up, because somebody will want to pick him up. But I will say there is a slight room for them to, see an increase in passing, and I actually was encouraged. Like you said, it was the worst game as far as weather-wise, but Lamar put up points. And and here's the other thing. With their defense now tremendously, missing some pieces, if this defense takes a step back and now you are forcing Lamar to have to throw and make plays, now you can start seeing these playmakers come to life, and with a schedule that would also pair up nicely with that. So, yeah.
Jacoby Myers was a hit for the Patriots, and for those that trusted him here, he had in PPR formats, he had a touchdown, obviously.
Threw one.
He also had 5 receptions and over 15 yards in PPR format. So I think Jacoby Myers might be here to stay as long as Julian Edelman is out, and he continues to have the eye for Cam Newton. Anything else on the Patriots side you'd like to get to?
Damian Harris looks great. Again, I think I have the most confidence in him moving forward out of any of those running backs. You might be able to get him somewhat on a buy low because of the murkiness there, but they get Houston, Arizona, LA Chargers upcoming on the next 3 games. So Houston and Arizona definitely two defenses you can run on. So you're trying to make a few week push towards a playoff. I think that could be your guy.
Joe Will says, so I sat Claypool for Smokey Brown Sunday, but now Smokey is hurt and on a bye. Can I confidently start Claypool week 11 PPR wide receiver 2? I honestly think you can against Jacksonville, and we talked about this. These guys are starting to heat up, getting 10 or more targets. You know, they're interchanging it here and there, but I like what Claypool puts on tape, and this is a great matchup here. So I don't mind that fill-in for your John Brown play. Justin says, who wins the trade? Hunt and Crowder for James Robinson. For me, it's Hunt and Crowder, hands down. Like, I would rather have Jamison Crowder and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, especially with the Kareem Hunt's upcoming schedule. Cleveland has a very nice schedule remaining. So, yeah.
A.J. Brown for Justin Herbert and Bobby Woods. Robert Woods and Justin Herbert for A.J. Brown. Would you do that deal, Johnny?
Honestly, I kind of like this deal
Which
for
side of
both sides. I honestly think it's a pretty fair trade. I mean, if the person needs a quarterback and a wide receiver, then I think you're getting fair compensation. If you are the person getting AJ Brown and you need a wide receiver, you had Justin Herbert as an extra, I think that's a tremendous upgrade. I think this is a very even trade. I would rather have AJ Brown than Robert Woods rest of the season. But again, if you needed a quarterback and you're getting Justin Herbert and Robert Woods, I think that's fair.
All right, Jimmy Navarro says I need 32 points from Cook tonight. Frowny face. I think you got a shot, man. It's Dalvin Cook. If anybody can do it, it's Dalvin Cook.
100%.
Elias says, should I try to go after DK Metcalf now that he's did bad? Like, that's a good buy low. I don't know if you'll be able to buy low as much as you want because people understand who DK is, but he is a volatile player as far as usage is concerned. He doesn't get it done a lot on usage. He pops a lot. So that's something you can use to try and trade for him and try and get that deal done fast because they play on Thursday night.
100%.
All right, Whisper Nation, for Johnny Game Time Hicks, I'm Big Travie. That was the Week 10 reaction show, and we are the Fantasy Whispers. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.